button. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. I'm muting. So
two village idiots with a love-hate relationship.
See, you got fat. So you still look like a 15-year-old girl, but not hot.
Who can't stop arguing over Oklahoma sports.
You know what, man? Why am I still talking to you?
Come on, we were doing good there, man.
It's the Just Okay Sports Podcast, hosted by Troy and Daryl.
Oh, Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, let's go. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I'm one of your village idiots, Daryl. I'm here with my brother, J-Rod, and it is go time. What is up?
Man, I am extremely exhausted this week, but I'm pumped. Let's talk football, dude. We were off last week. By the way, Nemo's already in chat, already hit the resub
Let's
button.
go.
So, by the way, real quick plug, we'll just get this out of the way since it's my segment to talk, which I don't get much of during this thing. We do stream this live on Twitch, on my Twitch channel. So if you want to pop in, feel free. And my boy Nemo, shout out to my boy Nemo. He's a real one. Can't wait, dude. Just a few weeks away, and I'll be face to face with this guy.
Heck yeah, man.
Heck, I'm, anybody that wants to, Baker, when you're listening to this, if you want to meet us at the game and hang out afterwards or whatever, just text me, bro.
That's right.
Anyway, but no, so shout out to Nemo. But I'm extremely exhausted. This has been a long work week. It's gonna be a lot longer. It's gonna be a long work week the rest of the week. But dude, I finally, now that they're in the spring practice, right? And actually seeing some pads popping and stuff, it's dude, my adrenaline gets going when I open up Twitter and see those things. So
yeah, no doubt about it. And I do think it's been a combination of, we weren't able to pod last week, which sorry, everybody, not that you were just dying to listen to this Just Okay podcast, but if you were, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, subscribe, follow, do all the stuff. Help us get this thing going and keep it going and all the fun, different things, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that we didn't pod and talk about anything, now that spring practice is a full weekend, and as Venable said the other day, we're a third of the way through. We are 5 of 15 practices done. We are 22, 23 days away from a spring game right now. Let's do this. So you're good. I'm good. We're both busy. We're both exhausted. We've had full 12-hour days today. Now we're jumping on live stream podcasting. So let's just get into some spring football. How you feel about that?
I'm ready, dude. Let's go.
Let's start with this. Let's just kind of run down over the last week to 2 weeks, especially. You're done with Schmitty winter workouts, right? You're actually into practices. So I thought we would start with, let's just talk about what the players are saying, right? Because they've had some post-practice interviews, all that kind of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just kind of run down some things that we've heard. Let's start with this one. How about the podcast on the Prairie? Did you get to listen to Podcast on the Prairie with Mr. Jeremiah Hall and Braden Willis, brother J-Rod? I
did get to listen to part of it. I honestly haven't got to listen to the whole thing yet, but I actually was planning to tomorrow on my drive.
Very nice. Did you listen to the part that matters?
About how they feel about the team and the environment and that culture and that kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
And the BV side of it specifically. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So by the way, if you don't have time to listen to another podcast because you're absorbed with us, we understand that. So go to about, I believe it's minute 17 and play till about minute 20 to 21, right in that range. Jeremiah Hall is sharing about, he's basically recapping saying, look, I said before, I thought BV was a great hire. I thought that was the right guy. But then he got to actually spend time with Brent Venables during their pro day stuff. Said finally got to actually sit down with him. He got to speak to all of us that were there at pro day. And the number one thing he said, he goes, I wanted to suit up right there. Said as soon as he got done talking, I wanted to suit up and I wanted to play for that man. And then he goes, look, I said it before we got the guy. He goes, but I'm telling you right now, he goes, I'm tripling down. I'm quadrupling down. We got the guy. And then he goes on to say this, there is not a better man in the country for this job. Then he basically kind of gets interrupted by Braden Willis, who says, oh, we got the guy. We got the guy. I mean, like, I don't know that there's higher praise. You got a guy that's not even here anymore, that's out the door of the NFL draft saying that kind of stuff. Then you got Braden Willis just echoing that through and through and through. And then I can't remember who it was, Theo Weiss or somebody, they kind of put that clip out there and it was like chimed in by those people. How do you feel when you hear that? Like, you just, I overplaying this? Am I crazy?
No, I mean, and like, here's the thing. So I'm wearing, if you're obviously if you're listening to this podcast, you don't see, but I'm wearing my Oklahoma versus the world shirt, right?
At Sooner Gridiron on the Twitter sphere to go find yours, by the way, and get it if you don't already. Yes.
So plug for Sooner Gridiron. Look, I think he's that's kind of the but in a way I think that's part of what he's like kind of blending into this culture, right? With it being kind of like it's just us versus anybody in front of us kind of thing. Not necessarily like we're out to get Tebow or you know what I mean? Like he's just like whatever's in front of you, we're gonna destroy. Right. And like, dude, like I said, watching the videos, it's like I would get like and I guess I didn't realize this, and maybe I don't know, it's fresh now, but whenever Tebow was here, like, and I'd watch the highlight videos and stuff, like I'd get hyped because it's like, oh, that was a good play, or somebody's such an athlete. And you were kind of like, cool, like you're just hyped because you just want to see football. Like that's right. And now I watch it and I'm like, dude, I want to go hit somebody. Like I want to go just, go out in the front yard and just put a tackling dummy up there and spend an hour doing it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. And I also just think like he's been like we kind of talked about, he seems to be so genuine, right? Like some of the things that even like some of us are like, yeah, that's kind of like weird or dumb or whatever. It's like it's just him being him though. He's not trying to be Mr. Cool all the time and all this. Like sometimes he's just like just want to be the coach, So and it's just like the clip. I don't know if I think you saw the clip where he was working with like still working individually with linebackers and defensive line. He was all over the defensive guys. Personally, not just saying like, hey, make sure he does this. Like he was in there and he was like, hey man, when you do, I mean, he was in their faces. So yeah, it's just a huge, think about how different that is.
Yeah. Well, like,
well, remember, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I want to, sorry.
I mean, again, to me, that statement stood out because again, it was initiated by Jeremiah Hall, who has been, by the way, very glowingly positive towards Lincoln. Okay. Like, he has said, I didn't like the way it necessarily went down. He's kind of alluded to that, but he's also said like Lincoln was great and all those things. So again, what is awesome about the statement to me is it's not throwing shade at Lincoln, right? Like this isn't a bitter statement where Jeremiah Hall's like, oh yeah, well, back in the day, and now this. It's just a straight compliment to BV that in a way throws shade at Lincoln.
Right.
But it's not. You see what I'm saying? Like it was just real. And then to hear a guy in there every day going, oh, we got the guy. Like, I mean.
Well, and I think it was what I was going to point out, and we'll probably talk about this even more, but somebody even tweeted out, like somebody like was quoted or tweeted, I can't even recall. This is just okay, guys, by the way. Sorry. So, but basically said, he's a coach that actually watches film with us.
Wow.
And I was like, bro, that's low. That's not even low key shade. That's just shade. So yeah, dude,
yeah. Well, what the other thing that keeps being said, and again, it's not them going, oh, Benny Wiley this and Schmitty this, right? It's when we work out, there is no like the statement again of there's nobody just going and getting a drink of water when they want, that there's nobody just going to do what they want when they want. We do our work. And when you finish, then you can go do your stuff. Right. I mean, it's things like that. Theo Weiss talking about this staff and Brent Venables and how much this team is together. He keeps talking about that. We are together in such a good, we're going to surprise people because of the way that we're together. Reggie Grimes talking about that, right? And then also it was so cool to hear Reggie Grimes talking about like his thing when he was getting highly recruited was he wanted to play for BV. Like Clemson was his spot. They got filled up. He couldn't go. And now he gets to, I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been such an amazing thing to see. Like I said, and so many, it's, you would almost expect it, right? Cause like BV's a linebacker guy. Like that's his trade. So you would, like a lot of coaches would kind of get a similar reaction because like, hey, they, like Lincoln with QBs or whatever. But like, it's not just, that's what's crazy. It's not even just defensive guys. Like I said, Weiss and Willis and they're offensive guys and they're saying the same things, which is, I think shows how invested he is in this team.
Yeah, for sure. So, here's a couple other things that have stood out from players as spring has got going. DJ Graham talking about Jay Valai and talking about how him and his family had basically conversations about, do they hit the portal? Do they not? What's going to happen? What's not? And he said, I knew we were getting BV. We were in good shape.
Right.
Then I heard they were getting Jay Valai. And he goes, as soon as I heard that was pretty certain, I called my dad and I said, Dad, we're getting Jay. And his dad said, no way. Like, that ain't like, no. And then he was like, no, Dad, like for real. And he is just through the roof excited about Jay Valai, which again, like, I think we all felt very good about Jay Valai, right? Like you don't get mad about taking a coach from Alabama, right? Like you don't, but now to hear guys that worked out with these guys and knew of these guys to get excited, that fires you up, and
I mean, Valai is like it's not just a name. It's like these people, people know, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is DJ Graham knows Jay Valai already,
right?
And already knows his reputation and everything else that goes with that. But it's like, yeah, I mean, and it's not just, I mean, DJ said it. A lot of other guys have said comments over the past however many months that this has been happening that dude's legit.
Yeah. This one will get everyone excited because they're already excited about both of these players. Here was something that stood out to me. So Danny Stutzman was asked about how things are going and yada, yada. And then he was asked basically about Jaron Kanak, right? Like what's going on with Jaron Kanak? He goes, well, I don't call him Jaron or Kanak. I call him Ivan Drago. Like that guy is a freak. Like, okay.
Well, and like, as weird as it is to say, and again, I've said this already a number of times. It's like I just feel like he still reminds me of Teddy Lehman in that sense, because people forget Teddy Lehman was an athletic. He was a running back.
Yes, mainly a running back
out of high school that played linebacker and got put in as linebacker, and just obviously, if you're an OU fan, you know the rest, but. So it's like, it's kind of the same thing because Kanak's the same way in a sense. I mean, he played a lot of running back, and if you watch his film, it's like, dude, it's not like he just was a big bruiser type guy. Like he outruns people and jukes and moves. It's like, you shouldn't move that way.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's good to have freak athletes on your team regardless.
Absolutely. And then the last thing from I put this in the player category because we're going to talk about players and coaches.
Yep.
And I didn't know where to put it, but Teddy Lehman today on the radio got to actually go and watch the entirety of practice today, which by the way
which do you think he was on the roof of Headington, or how do you think he did?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think he had binoculars or like did it have the passcode since Lincoln never let him come watch practice?
He was actually on top of Lloyd Noble with the telescope.
Good Lord. I mean, again, I don't want to go. I'm not going to the past. I'm not going to the past.
I'm sorry. I just had to. I'm focusing
on the future. I'm focusing on the future. Okay. So Teddy Lehman was asked by his co-host on their radio show today. So give us an overall, you were there for the whole day, kind of what stood out, what meant something to you. Teddy Lehman said, this offense is going to be very good And if things come together, it will be absolutely elite. I was like, okay. And he wasn't like, it was not said in a way of the defense was just shoddy. You know what I mean? Like, he even said, like, the O-line protected the quarterback. Okay. And it did not matter. Like, this offense is going to be very good to elite. That is very exciting to me as well. Because I think we've all kind of had the mentality that the offense would be good, but the defense was going to really be so much better because of the physicality and the style and all that stuff. But to hear him say that really got me fired up.
Well, think about it. I mean, let's be honest here. And again, I don't want to go too far into the past, but under the previous regime, we'll just put it that way, their kryptonite seemed to be physical teams, right? Like when they went up against super physical teams, they got kind of manhandled, right? Like they look like they couldn't handle it. So, and you have those same players, right? Like for the majority of these players that you have on this offense are the same, right? I mean, you've got some new faces, but overall, right? So, you know, I can get it. Like, you know, I think people really thought, especially like I've heard people talking about the spring game, like it's just going to be a defensive showcase because the offense won't be able to do anything.
No.
And so I was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still, like I said, I'm still on the fence because it's so hard to tell early on. And BV's schemes and system is a little bit more complicated.
Yes.
So I could see it also being a little bit, you know, the guys are still picking things up.
Yeah. And by the way, next podcast is going to start focusing on kind of a preview of everything. But folks, remember, the offense always has the advantage. Always. Right. Because they know what they're doing. The defense has to react. So just know at the spring game that the defense doesn't look like some all-world beating defense. They're still learning new terminology, new scheme, new lineup, new gaps, new everything. And then the offense knows exactly what they're doing and they're having to react to it and all that new stuff, if that makes any sense, right? So like, don't freak out of the defense. Look for solid open field tackling. Look for, does it look like guys at least know where they're lining up? Things like that. That's going to be the big stuff.
Well, and I honestly, and by the way, Sunshine has popped into chat. So welcome in.
Let's go, Sunshine.
You lovely human being.
Mister, I have a crush on Jada Pinkett, but you know, that's fine. Whatever.
Let's not go down that road tonight. So no, I mean, I also would not, again, we don't want to get too far into it because I know we're going to do a preview next week and probably the week after even,
right,
about the spring game. But it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't, because like the frustrating thing about again, the previous regime was like, you go to a spring game and it's like, there's a lot of hype and like, it was cool to see some big plays happen and, you know, all that, but it was like, there wasn't a lot of physicality. Like it looked like a practice. Like it looked like you're running a soft scrimmage during, you know, a warm up week or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it didn't look that good. I would not be surprised if there wasn't some pads popping when
100%.
When it came to this game. I mean, obviously like probably DG and, you know, whoever else is at QB is probably going to be protected and maybe a couple other guys.
Right.
But it's like, dude, outside of that, like, I don't think they're going to tell anybody to pull up. So
yeah, absolutely. So let's transition. And that's kind of what we've heard from players. That's all kind of public stuff, but we're trying to pull it together for you. Right now, let's talk about coaches. What are the coaches saying? So BV's kind of had three main things I think that have stood out as he's talked about the spring. One is the buy-in across the board, that there hasn't been pushback. I would say two is that Dylan Gabriel is absolutely the dude who wants to lead this team and has earned that leadership spot. I think that's huge. And then I thought the third thing that he said this week that made me go, was linebacker depth is not great. Now, I want to clarify, if you listen to his whole quote on that, I don't think he's mad about the linebackers he has. I think he realizes, because he says, as soon as he says that, he goes, we only have 12 starts in our entire linebacker room. So I think he means when he says no linebacker depth, really he means no experience, right?
Well,
no experience depth.
Well, and you also got to take it into perspective that, again, there's a change in, obviously in scheme, but also in style of player that he wants, right? Like,
Probably, yeah.
so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't want some of those guys. There might be some guys that were kind of even in tweeners in the previous system that now he's like, hey, you need to put on another 15 pounds to be what I want you to be or whatever.
Yeah.
So that could be part of it. But and plus again, that's Venable's bread and butter. That's his thing is linebacker. So I don't take that quote and think, oh man, our linebackers are going to suck. We're probably going to have some really, really good linebackers. It's just, are you going to have a 2 deep that's really good? Or are you going to have hopefully just a starting rotation that's good, or whatever. Right. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm not overly concerned. Is there anything else that you've seen from BV this week that stood out to you? That was kind of those were my three things from him that I really grabbed.
Just the general, dude, the guy, I swear, if I was sitting in a Denny, I don't know why I said Denny's, but if I was sitting in a restaurant, we'll use Denny's actually. This will be fitting because then it wouldn't stand out. If I was sitting in a Denny's and BV walked in and was like, "How are y'all doing?" I would flip my table. I'd just be like, "Let's go," Since it's a Denny's, nobody cares. But anyway, BV's just, like I said, from the outside, I think for the fan base, he's the dude.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's partially because, I still think when I look at BV, we're all, as fans, we're obviously all passionate about OU football. And it's, for a lot of us, it's something we invest a lot of time and energy into. So when you see somebody else that kind of when you see the head coach,
right,
kind of seem like he has that same mentality about it, it's like, come on, dude, let's go.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And then the other guy that this week got to talk to the media was Miguel Chavis so far. Got to hear a little bit more from him, which, man, the more he gets in front of a microphone, the more excited I get. And by the way, of all the hires BV made, I was very suspect on Miguel Chavis.
Yeah.
Right. No experience. And look, let's be honest here for a minute. Not only did you hire a guy that had no experience, you let a guy walk that wanted to stay, that we all loved, right? Yes. At the position. So that was a big deal as well. That kind of had, I think, all of us a little chapped and not really understanding. Now, 3 months into it, he made a very good hire, in my opinion. He made very good hire.
So far it seems that way. By the way, I gotta shout out my boy Noobs. He popped into chat and said "Sup, boyo," which I would like to say to that. What's up is Dylan Gabriel's stock, because he's a UCF fan, and he said all my homies hate DG. Well,
fair enough.
Maybe
nothing from Nemo or Sunshine yet. Nothing.
Chimed in nothing yet. Then? No, it's quiet chat right now. But
okay, quiet chat.
Did you also see the clip of him where they was I think it was this week's presser maybe, where they were asking him, he was they asked him something and he was he's I was actually watching film with my wife.
Yes.
And, we were watching special teams and I was like, bro, this man, you know,
with 5 kids, by the way.
Yeah. Come, dude, let's talk about it. But anyways, yeah, dude, and like I said, just the stuff that he says, like you said, I want people to be violent. If you're not violent, you're not going to play. It's dude, let's go.
Dude, that video was and you can tell guys weren't totally focused, because he's yelling, hey, hey, hey. And then he gets on, he goes, if you are not violent, you will not play for me. Yes, please. Yes.
Well, and I think, and again, it kind of goes, I think another reason for him, and this goes to BV too, but take him, for example, it kind of seems it harks back. Cause with the previous regime, it was, I'm just going to keep calling it that, cause I don't even want to do a Tebow or whatever, but he, it was with the previous regime, it was he wanted it to be kind of a finesse. And it was very, we're going to outsmart you and out scheme you and all these other things. Right. And with this, it's the meat and potatoes type football. We're just going to out physical you. We're just going to absolutely get out there and try to dominate you, which is what is Oklahoma football, in my opinion. Right.
Well, it's football. The most physical team 99% of the time will win a football game, right?
Okay, here's a call out to that, and this is gonna be painful for me because it was a painful night. 2008, right? Orange
Yeah.
Bowl,
Yeah.
OU Florida.
I was there. Yeah, I know.
They was it Malcolm Kelly? Maybe I can't remember. Was it? It was
No, Manny Johnson.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Are you talking about Manny Johnson when he got his head freaking knocked
Yeah.
off?
Yeah. So just gets decleated. And before the ball's ever there, should have been pass interference. It didn't get called. But it was like Florida set the tone that we were going to be physical. They punched OU right in the mouth and ended up winning the game.
Well, and look, when you can't punch it in from the 2-yard line 3 different times in the first half, that's a physicality issue. That's not a skill issue. That's not a dropping a pass. That's a physicality issue.
Right. Well, and that's I mean, again, I call it, I'm just going to call it meat and potatoes football.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's just plain. I'm going to get out there and just, out physical you. So,
yeah, I liked that one. He also said this week in his little practice clip, you are either predator or prey. I love that quote. You are either predator or prey. And he continually said it through his little Miguel Chavis spotlight moment was, I need predators. I need predators. I need predators.
Predators are greater than prey.
Yeah. And then in his practice interview, kind of his press conference, it seems, very evident that Jonah Lalu, I think is how you say his name, and Ethan Downs are the leaders in the clubhouse. Those guys right now have his attention. He's also mentioned Reggie Grimes a little bit, but it definitely appears that Lalu at 280 and Ethan Downs have his attention.
Well, and I also would point out that we heard good things about Downs before too. Like even under Grinch, you heard his name come up from time to time. So it's like, maybe he's just special, I mean,
there's no question he's got motor, right? Like, and that's always going to catch attention early on. I still think raw ability, probably Reggie Grimes edges him a little bit there, but those are big deals. And then the last thing from Miguel Chavis that I thought stood out to me from this week was, he said, I straight up told BV the other day this, I knew you would be a good coach. That's why I came. I didn't know you would be this good. Like, okay.
Well, and yeah, I mean, again, it's like he's even from Clemson. He's elevated his game from there to Oklahoma. I mean, obviously, because that's where Miguel Chavis's experiences with him.
Right.
So for him to look at him and say, you're better than I thought.
Yeah. As a head coach, you're better than I thought. Like he straight up said, he goes, I knew you'd be good. You're Brent Venables. You do everything well, but you are better than I thought you would be. That speaks volumes when a coach on your staff is willing to say that to your face. That says a lot. Right. And then the last one that I thought was really cool was friend of the podcast, Coach Chris Melson from down at Mansfield Legacy. Obviously, his son's a walk-on. He's an alum, so he got to go watch practice this week or this past weekend and just, had a very long tweet about how physical, efficient, just fast the whole practice was. That something was always going. It was always instructional. I really, really like that another coach is willing to say that for sure.
Okay, hang on. I'm getting a text right now from one of my sources who says that these practices have been the best practice in college football ever.
Gosh, here we go. All right.
The best ever in the history of the world. Yeah, sorry. So for everybody that's like, what is he talking about? Our boy Colin Cowherd says that according to his sources, the USC practice was the greatest football practice ever. The first practice.
Folks, if you can't figure out that Calturt is just trying to get a rise out of you because he knows Oklahoma fans follow him, and hate Tebow, you're just an idiot. Like, that's totally just a troll moment by him when he did that. But but Chris Melson was kind of making light of that, but also being legitimate in it's
Yeah,
going really well, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
sorry,
going
I
really
didn't, Coach. I wasn't trying to diminish your
No.
comment. I just thought I'd feed off of it. So don't,
Yes.
you know.
So yeah, that was that. And then so yeah, that's all anything else you heard from BV, Miguel Chavis, anything like that from the coaching side?
I mean,
maybe.
it's just when you look at the coaches, let's go all the way back to like when Cradell was on the pod with us,
Yeah.
which again, shout out to the guy. It's incredible that everybody, it's not like, as a matter of fact, we were just talking about this today. There's a difference between like it being like a mantra that got hammered into your head to say like, oh, well, BV's just great.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Every guy though has said something similar, but it's like you can tell that it's like their genuine opinion. Like he's the dude, you know, or whatever. So, and that, I just think that speaks volumes because it's not, it's Levy and the offensive guys, defensive guys. It doesn't matter. They're all praising him. And I just think that I think the culture itself, like, I'm going to be perfectly honest. How good do I think this team will be when it comes to, you know, September when, you know, we're kicking off? No idea. Right. Like, I think they're going to be good, but who knows? But I think long term, this was the perfect hire.
Yeah, it definitely feels
across the board.
Yeah, it very much feels that way from recruiting, all of it. So yeah, couple of things really quickly. Obviously, lots of the media is actually allowed to go to practice. So you have things like Sooner Scoops put videos out there. Brandon
Like
Drum's crew has put Channel 4, Channel 5, right? There's just been a lot of video that's come out. And then obviously you've got the own, you know, Sooner Vision crew putting stuff out through social media. So there's a couple things that have stood out to me, but what about for you? Anything that stood out for you as you've kind of looked at clips from practice?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, again, the fact that I'm seeing videos, like I remember it was like, it sounds so dumb to say this, but as an OU fan, like I saw a clip and it was like Channel 9, I think. And you saw the little 9 logo and I was like, man, I wonder where they got that footage. Because it, like, in my head, I automatically assumed they couldn't have gone to see the practice. Right. So like legitimately that was my thought. And then I was like, oh wait, no, they probably were just there. So I think that's cool. But I mean, like, so, well, I'll tell one that's not even in our flow here, but Chris, did you see Chris Murray's clip that he posted?
No, I actually did not.
So he was like, this is my last ride with the brothers, blah, blah, whatever. And like made this big hype video. And like, I think Nick Benito and a bunch of others were like 100 and, you know, tweeting back at him and stuff. But kind of was like, you could tell like the clips he picked out were like the ones where he was just knocking somebody on their butt, which I think again speaks towards what this team wants to do on offense even.
Right.
So I just think the guys are hyped, dude. I haven't seen, like, they just feel like, that's part of it. I think is we all feel excited because they seem so excited. Right. So, but I mean, the thing is there's so many clips. That's the thing is like, there's so much footage out there in the world now.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones. There's so many good clips.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot floating around there. Here's one thing that stood out to me from the clips that I love is one of the mantras of the staff and BV has been everything you do matters, right? Like you need to be doing it. And one of the little clips that came out of practice, which again, maybe a lot of teams do this, but I've not seen it. I mean, I can't think of anywhere that I've seen it, even when you see clips of like an Alabama practice or whatever. But it was really cool when they were doing individual things. Like, so for instance, what we're talking about is like linebackers, right? And even defensive linemen. You'll do these like drills where you get in a line, right? When it's your turn, you work on punching, right? And ripping back and through, right? Just a simple, not overly physical or anything like that. Receivers will do a drill where they come up, right? And Gundy's going to come up here with the pad and he's going to say hut. And it's the job of the receiver to slap hands, right? Kind of swim and release off the line for press coverage, like little things like that, right? When they showed that section of practice, everyone in line is doing the drill, even though it's not their rep.
Right.
Right. So in other words, defensive linemen are all in line. When they say hit, they punch and they pull to air, but to practice their rep. The receivers are all in line. When they say hit, they're slapping and swimming through the press coverage, even when it's not their rep. So legitimately, you're getting 10 to 15 extra reps, even though you're not actually putting your hands on somebody and pulling them back, if that makes sense.
Which is so beneficial, because if people don't know this, you have limited times for practice. Like
Correct.
you can't just say we're practicing until midnight. Like there's set times that you're allowed to practice. So
right. And you're mentally engaged. You're engaged as a team. I mean, there's so many things about it that I love, but it's little things like that that I think are good. Even before Spring said, I have a map of where everything's happening, how we're transitioning, and we're doing a walkthrough as a coaching staff to make sure we're on time. I mean, that kind of stuff I love. That's come out of practice, right? So I think that that's really big. The other thing that I would say that I've seen from the video side of things that I've really enjoyed, Nick Evers, homeboy can sling a football. Okay, like true freshman, should be going to prom right now. And when you watch that dude throw a football, it looks great. It like, however you want to say it.
Like, there's obviously, so okay. First of all, everybody that somehow that's been sleeping under a rock that's an OU fan, QB1 gonna be Dylan Gabriel.
100%.
Right? Like that's already
100%.
But I am anxious to go to the spring game and see him sling the ball.
Yes.
So it's gonna be, dude. He does. It does look. The ball looks crisp and clean coming out. So
right. And I'm not saying it doesn't from Dylan Gabriel.
Right,
I'm just saying, like, when you're thinking about this team right now with Dylan Gabriel, and really the only other guy that's a true scholarship, our quarterback guy, it's Nick Evers. And so when you see the ball just come out of his hand, I don't know if it's accurate. I don't know those things, but I like what I see from just a pure talent standpoint of arm talent.
Well, and I was gonna say, so part of that, like, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Arm talent is what's on showcase there, right? Because like when you're in high school, you don't get the same level of coaching on your throwing mechanics that you're gonna get in college, whether that's at Oklahoma or any other college athletics, whether that be D3 or D1, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different game when you get to college. And so the fact that he's already appears to have a lot of those mechanics down, or just naturally can sling the ball that well without months. I mean, literally, what, he's been there 2 months or something.
Right.
He's already doing that. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Right. And again, you and I know, like, between 7-on-7 and stuff, quarterbacks are definitely coming in more talented than ever. Right. But there's a difference between being coached up at quarterback and just like, there's guys that it's just different, right? Like watching Patrick Mahomes fling a football is just different. You can see it with your eyes. It's just different.
It's just like, I'll use an OU guy. Like Kyler Murray would throw the ball, and like there's no way I thought that he could throw the ball 70 yards downfield, off balance, running out of bounds. I mean, like, nothing about it made any sense. Like any other human being out there had done it. Now I would have thought that I saw a glitch in the matrix, right? Like it was insane.
Right.
So the arm talent on, I mean, some of those guys, Aaron Rodgers, whoever you want to pick, there's a ton of pro quarterbacks, but anyway, I mean, a freshman doing that, let's go.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I'm ready.
The other guy that has made it through social media and several other things, a guy that keeps coming up through the clips, is Kanai Walker, and which again is a freshman transfer. So he played 1 year at Louisville, transferred, which the fact that BV took him tells me a lot, because he's kind of not really a fan of that kind of style usually. So something was up there, which, by the way, had great interactions with Kanai Walker's parents, because I can't remember. Oh, they put on Kanai's name. They put a funky deal. They put like midfield or something on his name. And Parker Thune mentioned, like, I had to take a double take. Does that say midfield, like midfielder or whatever it was? And I said, the thing that stands out to me for Kanai Walker is he's listed at 205 pounds as a corner. That stood out to me. And his dad even said, because he was listed at 175 at Louisville. I went back and looked. So he's up a lot. And so his mom and dad both were like, yeah, he was 190 there. But either way, 205-pound corner who's made multiple appearances, I guess is the right way to say it.
Right.
He definitely had an interception in practice the other day, which, by the way, an interception against Marvin Mims, that's pretty high praise.
Right.
BV's talked about his speed and his ability. That's pretty high praise. And you do all that at 205 pounds. Yeah, I'm on the hype train for Kanai Walker. Let me just say it that way. I want to see it still in a game, but I'm on that hype train. And so I think that has been a good thing.
I've also seen, there was a clip. This is one that just came to my head that, again, not in our flow, but Kip Lewis is a guy that I don't know if the coaches have said a lot, but like a lot of the players, like there was one, I think, where Stutzman he's like, this is the beast, Kip, or something like that. And like, they were like all the guys around. It wasn't like he was just being, he wasn't jerking his chain or something. Like everybody around him was like,
yeah.
And I was like, and by the way, I'm just saying that was my dude that I was like, hey, I think he's going to be the surprise of this class. So
you did say that. The other guy that's been making the rounds and clips, which again, not in our flow, but that I've been high on. So maybe I'm just seeing it, but Brian Darby is in a lot of clips. Yes, and making big plays and great catches of the football. And he ended the year doing that as well.
And Jalil Farouk, which we didn't even mention earlier, talking about Jalil Farouk, where he said,
"Oh,
because
yes.
Did you see the deal where somebody asked
yes,
him?
Yes, I'm sorry. I suck. I'm just okay. All right, fine, go.
Yeah, you're terrible. Anyways, so somebody said, like when Tebow left and the previous coaching staff had left and went to USC, what were your thoughts? Did you have to take you a minute to decide? And he goes, no. OU's where I wanted to be. I'm OU DNA 100%. And I was like, bro, let's go.
Bro.
I was hyped for that. So,
dude, and I'm telling you
because by the way, because the reason that's such a huge thing is that he came here because of Tebow. Like Tebow was.
Yes.
Like Tebow, okay, he came to play in Tebow's system. He came to play for Tebow. Right. Like he may not have solely.
And he was very good friends with Caleb Williams, and they had always said they were going to play together in college. So Caleb Williams was a massive X factor to him coming here, right? And Tebow's system. And so when Caleb left, that was how the question came up was, that was your guy, and he left, and you're here.
Yeah, and just to say, and it wasn't like he was like spinning his wheels or like had to think about it. He just like, no, I just wanted to be here. I'm OU doing it. Like it was just rolled out, and I was like, okay, so kind of shocking to me. Not because again, it's not BV's again preaching be program guys, right? Like, and it's not that common anymore. Let's just all be honest about it. It's not. It's a mercenary market anymore.
Yeah,
and so
it's not common to see recruiting.
So somebody that says that, it's big.
Yeah. The last thing that obviously has stood out, and it's been talked about, so I know some of this is not new, but we didn't get to podcast last week, so it's got to come up. Kelvin Gilliam, who, by the way, you and I both were stoked. He's been on the pod, all that stuff. We were stoked about him coming out of high school, thought he could be a great player at OU. Homeboy is 285, nearly 90 pounds right now.
Yeah, and he was, for those that aren't aware, he was like in the 250 range, right?
Yes.
So
up big. So
and go watch the clips. It's not like they just said, here, eat 500 cheeseburgers a day. Like
no.
the dude's,
he looks put together.
I don't want to meet him in a dark alley. Okay. Like the dude's scary.
Now look, so with that kind of has left everybody going, well, dang, he just kind of jumped up in the weight program. Does that make sense? Right. Like, because BV does like bigger size defensive ends.
Right.
Hence, Jonah Lalu, right, is 280 pounds. So this is where the few moments, again, we are not reporters, we are not journalists, but we do have some sources. So I reached out to those said sources and said, is this just a new scheme move, or is this he's moving inside? right? Like to D tackle. Can confirm he has been moved inside. So they are looking to move Kelvin Gilliam to more of the defensive tackle type position. And I will just say that there is lots of enthusiasm, both from coaches, but also with Kelvin. Kelvin is very excited about the move as well. That from the people I've talked to, they're all pumped about that move and really believe he could wreak some havoc from the inside, which is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think everybody that's kept up with him at all through his career thus far, and through high school and recruiting and all that to now, we all knew there was something there. It was just how was it going to get unlocked? So
Correct.
Let's see what BV can do with him.
Yeah. Anything chat wise on any of that kind of stuff? Anybody chimed in?
Yeah,
yet?
my boy Mayo just said Mahomes is mid, which he hates Mahomes. Whatever. Even as an OU fan, I'm not whatever, because we were talking about quarterbacks earlier. But anyways,
how can you like the dude's freaking ridiculous? Like you can't.
It's Mayo. He just wants to get a rise. But anyways,
it worked.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean we're good. But I do want to talk about the spring game. So spring game's coming up. So okay. So real quick, I don't know. I mean, I would love to meet some of you guys. So if anybody wants to meet, both Daryl and I will be at the spring game.
Yes.
I will be sitting in the club seats because, let's just face it. I'm me. I'm amazing. I should be, right?
Screw you.
So, I'll be sitting. I will be in the club seats, but
I'm single and I have a great job and I get all the fancy things. How do you like your 3 children life of having to go and be with the peasants, little brother?
Hey, I'm pretty sure I've already worked like 60 hours this week. Let's back off the job thing. So, and by the way, he says now his comment is move over Boomer Mahomes Herbert season.
Oh God.
Anyways, back to it. So if you were like, man, I want to get some of those club seats, those are sold out.
Yeah, they're gone.
So they're gone. Okay. So, and they've been gone for I think over a week.
Which again, like, let's just to fill everything in the south end zone is technically like a major portion of the south are considered club seats, right? You got the whole second level on the east side. Yes, east side, all club seats. So like that's a massive chunk of seating.
Mine's on the east side is where I'm going to be seated,
right.
But seated.
That's where I'm going to be seated.
That's
all
where
right,
I was
then.
seated.
Let's go.
So anyways, that's where I'm going to be.
Dog.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so everybody that's watching this, my dogs were like passed out before stream, and this is normal. Like before stream,
you're listening to this in podcast form. His dog is just spinning circles, chasing its tail in the background.
Chasing her tail.
Awesome. It's awesome.
So she wakes up. She's like, "Oh, hey, Dad's doing stuff on his computer. Let's go wildin'." Anyway, but no spring game. So it's feeling like I don't know that it'll sell out. Okay, like I don't think I still don't believe that there's gonna be 85,000 people at the spring game.
Yeah, not there either.
I do think the Blower Bowl could potentially be sold out. Like everything but the upper decks, I think could be sold out.
Yeah.
So and there might be some scattered up there too, but it's like I don't know. The last few spring games we've been to, like they might have been able to sell out the club seats alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so the fact that they're already sold out is huge. So
yeah,
I'm pumped.
And with that, we don't know how many tickets are left. Right. We know they're going to be, but they have a count on how many they can sell, that kind of thing. So we would also like to next week give away 4 tickets on the stream, right? So lock in, get with us. We'll figure out what that looks like for the giveaway.
To tell you what, this is how what's funny is we haven't even really talked about this too much in detail.
No.
It's kind of been nebulous, but we are going to, what we'll do is we'll put like a tweet out that'll be like, hey, respond to this tweet or whatever, react. And then we'll pick a winner from that.
And we haven't even totally decided, are we going to do 2 sets of 2 or just a set of 4 tickets? You and the family or whatever can go, but we'll have 4
Right.
tickets that we will give away in some way, shape, or form next week. So be chimed in, following us, all that kind of stuff. We'll give you the details on that, but let's go. And yes, we will also give the details on where and when we'll meet up at the game. Like we will have a meetup time, place prior to game. And we would love to see all of you guys that listen and check in.
Well, and speaking of, and I know that he's had some stuff come up, so I don't know that this will happen, but there was a plan for my boy Afro, who just resubbed to the channel, to come all the way down from Missouri. I don't think it's gonna happen because I know he's had some stuff come up, but either way, whether you're wherever you're from, you're more than welcome. Just love to meet you guys. So
let's do it. Absolutely. Let's move into a little bit of recruiting, get out of spring ball. We'll start doing previews and that kind of stuff, things to watch next week, but let's get into recruiting. Bad news on the recruiting front. So let's start with that. Labius Overton, if you remember, was the #1 overall prospect in the 23 class. And I believe he's still like top 15 or 20 or something. He reclassified to 22. Okay.
Right.
So, and still graded out for sure in the top 20 overall in the class. Was going to, I believe, be at the spring game or had a visit lined up to OU and one other place over the next couple of weeks. Well, he's no longer doing that.
And he's an OU legacy.
Yeah. And he hit his A&M visit, and now he's going to be committing this Friday, 48 hours from now. And all the scuttlebutt behind the scenes and crystal balls is very much that it's A&M. But by the way, they're not paying players.
No.
Okay?
Yeah. I mean, there's
no payroll. It's just, guys, it's a first-class education. It's the 12th man, and it's College Station. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, for the existence of football, there's never been a class assembled at the level that A&M's doing right now. And it has everything to do with just how amazing they are. Not NIL, contracts, and money.
Hang on. Can we just move past this? Because I just ate a late dinner. I don't want to get sick on stream. No, I mean, it's clearly something's rotten in the state of Denmark with the way it played out. So A&M can tell themselves whatever they want because they're already, to me, in college football, they're the most delusional fan base.
Yeah, that's about right.
So, and I'm an OU fan. I hate Texas more, but I would say that the fan base is more realistic at Texas.
Yeah. And by the way, if they land him, it will be their 8th defensive lineman that they've taken in the class.
Yeah.
8th. I mean, so that's the other side of it is like, look, this is NIL money because there's only 4 D linemen you can play unless you're going to play a 6-man front. And even then, 2 of you are alternates.
Like how can you can't play a 6-man front in today's football? Like
no, that's what I'm saying. Like you can't even play an old 5-2 defense, right? The old 52, you can't do that. So you're playing 3 to 4 man fronts and you got 8 D line. Like, I'm sorry, this ain't working. Now granted, it's his choice, it's his thing. I'm not mad at him, but let's just also be real that part of the reasoning behind all this is either NIL or whatever. I mean, there's just no way that 8 defensive linemen come to one school believing that they're just going to own, the next 3 years of college football.
It's just like, I mean, I remember even seeing interviews with like Barry Switzer back in the day, whenever you could there was like unlimited scholarships or whatever.
Right.
And it was like, we would take guys just so somebody else wouldn't get him, I think he even said that about Brian Bosworth. He was like, I wanted him almost just as much to keep him away from like Texas or some of those other schools as I did for him to play for me.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it too, probably for them. So
yeah, absolutely. Now on the positive note, last weekend was a massive elite junior weekend for OU, right? 26th, 27th weekend. And it went over big time. I mean, really big, very impressive, great glowing reviews, including TA, why am I forgetting his name right now? Cunningham. Yes, Cunningham. Big time 4-star/5-star defensive lineman. His dad is a massive Crimson Tide fan, massive Crimson. Like the banner on his dad's Twitter account is the Crimson Tide. Okay. I believe he hails from the state of Georgia, and he came and said, dude, BV energy and genuineness has me just hyped beyond belief. And he goes, I'm not supposed to like OU. Like he said that in the tweet, like, I'm not supposed to like here. We're here to visit, but I'm not supposed to like here. And I'm loving it. So those are the kinds of reviews you're getting out of it. Now, the downside is you're not going to see, like you did with the former staff of Lincoln and crew, there are not going to be endless commits come out of this weekend.
Right.
That ain't happening. So now I will say it is almost certainly a lock that Stacey Gage is going to commit to this class, to this university. And while it's still another year away, the number one overall prospect in the 2024 class sounds like it's almost a lock that he's going to commit to OU as well. So you've got that momentum coming eventually, and in really good spots for all that. But still, which leads to the reason why you're not going to see a lot of commits. It is because of Brent Venables' policy. If you commit, visits are over. He kind of holds to an old school policy. Where do you feel about this?
Okay, so because like this has kind of been a thing, like that's kind of like almost was like the introductory presser. Brent almost kind of said those sorts of things where you kind of could feel that that's where things were going to go. But I think it's kind of how you handle it, right? Like if he goes to a kid and says, look, if you want to commit, that's great, but we don't want you to commit until you're ready, until like, you know, this is the place. No other place is going to steal you from us. Then I want you to be a part of this, to commit.
Right.
Like if you handle it something like that, cool. But if you're like, oh, you're going to commit, well, don't go on any visits. I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just saying like, look, I don't want you here until you're ready to be here.
Right.
Right. So,
and he more or less said that, right? He said, take all the visits you want. Like, we don't care. Like, do that.
Well, and he's taking the approach of like, look, like, cause he's even said this, like people know what they're getting in Oklahoma, right? Like there's 100+ years of history. There's, even in the last decades, there's a ton of history, and you know what you're going to get. Like, what the program is, what the fan base is, what the expectations are every single season.
Right.
Take it or leave it. Right. Like, let's go visit somewhere else. That's fine. Go visit Georgia or Alabama or whatever. Like, he isn't scared.
Right. And I think it depends on how that conversation goes, but he kind of talked about that as president. He goes, look, I have to manage a roster, right? Like I have to manage scholarship. So like, how do I go and tell a kid, no, you can't commit because we're full, when the reality is that you're not truly committed here, right? Like that becomes very difficult to do, and can burn bridges and put the school in a bad position. He mentioned talking about that he wants them to understand what a commitment actually is, but he also said this, and this is what I think is the biggest. I think as long as Brent Venables is very clear, if you have an offer from us, and if at any point you want to commit, fully commit, it's committable. So in other words, BV has said there is no offer they put out that is uncommittable. He said, now outside they go commit armed robbery at a 7-Eleven, that would make their offer uncommittable. But that's it. He goes, so we're not going to, and he straight up said this, which I thought was interesting. He said, we will also not be the school that offers you and then tells you to take a gray shirt. We're not going to be the school that offers you and says, oh no, you know what? We had you, you committed, but now that guy that's higher ranked than you is wanting to commit, so you're out. So BV is very committed to them, right? It's not transactional, it's relational. We are committed to you. If we've offered you, you can commit, but you're done when you commit, and we will accept your, now once the numbers are full, that's a different thing, but we're all in, and we're not going to let you commit and then back off because we got a bigger name, a bigger fish, or whatever it was. And so I think as long as he's clear on that, I don't think it'll be bad. but we're all going to have to shift the way we see recruiting from the Lincoln era where 30 kids committed in a weekend and then half of them decommitted. And then they told kids you can't commit even though we offered you and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and there was all this stuff where it was like, so to go to that, like people need to keep this in perspective. You had like you would have somebody commit, right? Like just whoever. And it was like, that's great. Like you'd have this recruiting weekend, you'd have 10 commits, all these eyeballs out on Twitter. And you're like, great, awesome. But then within a month, half of them have decommitted or recommitted somewhere else because they went on another visit or whatever. And like you said, like how many times did we talk about, well, they were really after this guy, but now they got the number one guy. So they don't talk to him. Well, then the number one guy falls through and it's like, well, we're trying to cobble something together to get this guy back. And it's like, nobody's going to want to do that.
Right.
And nobody's like, if you say I've moved on, then they're going to move on. Right. Yep. So that's those things that like, yes, I get it. It's really nice when you have a recruiting weekend and you land 20 commits or whatever. But to me, like I said, I prefer it this way. Like this to me makes more sense. And it means you're going to have, in theory, you'll have less decommits. So
I think I'm with you. I'm okay with it as long as it's communicated the right way. But my two concerns are this. One, we live in an era of social media hype, and that's one of the reasons that Lincoln did things the way he did it, right? Mm-hmm. He used that very much to his advantage, right? To say, look at our class, look at who's coming, join in with them. And that is part of recruiting, right? Like is getting that kind of stuff in. So I'm worried about what that will be like when there's not much momentum and other schools are just reaping the momentum train, okay? Mm-hmm. Two, that's all well and good. What do you do when, like, let's just say I'm VV, you're the recruit. You commit, your best friend has an offer somewhere, really wants you to come along because you've kind of been through the process more. Like it's maybe not even a super prestigious school, but they want you to come on the visit with them to help kind of see your way through it and all that stuff. And then you go.
Well, I mean, break it down this way. I mean, that's a tough situation.
Or mom or dad or aunt or uncle kind of really push you, or heck, you get caught in the hype train. Hey, I didn't have an offer from Georgia. Now they offered. I'd like to kind of just go see the campus. Is BV going to say, like, to pull the Mike Gundy? You visited. That's it.
Well, hang on.
Done.
Because I think it's going to come down to me to kind of flip it. If I'm BV, I kind of handle that case to case basis, right? Like if I land a kid and he says, hey, look, my best friend that I've grown up with my entire life is going to go visit Southern Louisiana or whatever, some small school. It's like, okay, like we're not worried about Southern Louisiana stealing somebody, right? So like you'd probably be like, okay. Now if he says like, hey, Georgia offered me and I really was hyped for that offer, it's like, well, that's a whole set of circumstances that's different, right? That's a situation where I think he'd be like, okay, then if you want to go visit, you know your choice. You have to decommit.
Well, let me give you an example because I can't confirm this, but it has been circulated pretty stringently that DeAndre Moore, the wide receiver that we had committed, had a friend that wanted him to come with him on a visit / his quarterback coach wanted him to go on a visit. And the whole reason that he is decommitted from OU is because he said, hey, I'd like to go on this, but I'm still OU strong. And BB said, nope, you drop the commitment and you can go. Like, yeah, and we want you. We still want you.
Well, but and that's the thing is, it's again, even to that, if that's how you're going to play it, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I'm far be it for me to question Brent Venables, right?
Right.
But at the same time, again, it's kind of how you handle it. If you're still recruiting, you're still treating him like you want him. You don't just say like, hey, no, it's relationship's over, goodbye.
Right.
Sure. Like as long as you're doing that, it's like he probably ends up at OU and committed and is OU 100%, And I guess that probably maybe even a better way to hold it, because then it means everybody, it doesn't matter if you're the number one recruit in the nation or you're a 2-star, 3-star guy or whatever. It's like you have the same set of rules, which means a lot when you're in a locker room, right? Like I know that when it comes to recruiting, that's a whole different world, but it's like at the same time, that's one thing that I would give the previous regime is they talked about how those coaches interacted with kids not based upon, well, this guy was a 5-star and this guy's everybody was involved. So I think BV is going to keep doing that. And I think it's going to be like, look, it doesn't matter. I don't care what ESPN says you are or Rivals or whoever. You're going to play by the same rules as that kid and the other kid. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter. So we'll see. I mean,
who knows?
I think in the long run it'll be fine.
Okay. All right. I like it. So that's kind of the recruiting front. So again, we can't give you a lot. What I can tell you is David Stone and Stacey Gage, those are like done deals. I really felt like Overton was trending our way with Todd Bates. It does not feel that way now. Now that could be that's not true. Maybe it is that he's all in on OU, but it doesn't feel that way.
Maybe he went to A&M and was like, man, screw this place. I'm going to OU.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways. So let's get out of football. That's been great preview. We'll start doing preview.
Let's talk about stuff. Let's talk about the most dominant team in Oklahoma.
How about we talk about maybe the most dominant sports team in college sports?
Dude, okay. Real quick, because did you see? So last podcast we had, which a couple weeks ago, somebody voted UCLA number 1.
Yes.
Which it was like, I don't even know how, like logically at that point, I was like, okay, whatever. Somebody was just trying to be be a smart ass, whatever. Bam. Somebody again in the latest poll has voted UCLA number 1. By the way, that this OU team defeated.
Yeah, head to head, they have a win against them in California. Not at UCLA, but in California.
Yes. And like in this team, okay, so for those that don't know, they haven't lost. They're the only undefeated team in softball.
Correct. Which I believe they're 29-0 right now.
Which they just defeated the number 8 team in the nation, Kentucky, by run rule, and I think it was 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Come on. Like, I mean, and that was the only knock we had on this team up to that point is like, well, like, yes, they beat UCLA and blah, 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 but it's like they didn't have as many wins against top teams like FSU did and maybe even UCLA to some extent.
Right.
Now, they've gotten to where they're getting towards the meat of their schedule, and they're still run ruling people.
Folks, they are 30-0 with 25 run rules.
That means there's 5 games. 5 games have gone to regulation or whatever.
Correct. I mean, it's dumb. And look, here's the thing with this team. Last year, their pitching was fine. And I would literally say it that way. They were the most dominant team in softball, and yet their pitching was fine. Somebody put up a stat the other day through the first 23 games. Last year's team, national title team, their ERA was like 1.9. I think it was 1.92, which is actually really, really good, right? Mm-hmm. This year, the ERA of the pitching staff for OU is 0.75 ERA through their first 20. So they are a full run better in ERA. So let's give an example. They played Baylor the other night. It goes to regulation. It's one of their 5 regulation games. Goes into regulation. Baylor is up 1-0. Here's the thing. They're up 1-0. They had only gotten 2 hits in the whole game. 2 hits. Our pitcher struck out 13 in the game. 13 hitters. Okay.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So that's it. Like their bats were cold. They weren't hitting, and yet their pitching is keeping them dead in the game at a 1-0 game. And then sure enough, Tiare Jennings comes up, smacks a 3-run home run, walk-off home run to win it 3-1. I mean, this team is ridiculous.
And like, let's talk about it. Cause like the previous, like last year's team, it was definitely their bats that got them where they were.
Yes.
Right. Like when their bats did go cold, they lost.
Yeah.
Right. Or they struggled mightily against teams that they shouldn't.
Correct.
Right. That's where you could see the difference in pitching. Right. Like if the bats went cold, you weren't winning.
Right.
This game, this season, they've had plenty of games actually where the bats have gone cold, as dumb as that is to say when you have 25 run rules.
Right.
But they still end up winning because the other team can't put anybody on base.
Yeah.
So
well, last night, Wichita State, they played. They won the game on a walk-off that ended in a run rule.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So like the game was fairly tight. Jordy Ball was pitching really well. Things were going great. But yeah, I mean, there's not a weakness, man. Like your 9-hole hitter on this team went at 1.7 plate appearances, or sorry, 6 plate appearances with 6 home runs.
Right.
I mean, that's your 9-hole.
Well, like, and look, it's so weird because, like, to be honest, it's so weird to say this, but like I said, I don't know. Maybe gymnastics is the only sport that I could say has been as dominant. So, like, dude, build a statue of Patty Gasso. I'm being serious.
100%.
Because
Well, here's
this
the deal.
team,
She's a long hauler. She won her first national title in 2000. Here we are in 22, and she's about to win, like, what, her 7th? I mean, like,
she's definitely on the road to, I mean, it doesn't look like that's what's funny. And that's, I guess that's the other thing is if you've watched or seen, just look at stats, just pull up stats for, like, Oklahoma State is a great team, right? They're a great softball team, or UCLA or FSU or whoever. Pull up these schools and look at their stats, and then look at OU, and it's like, it doesn't even look like they're playing the same sport.
no.
I mean,
It's dumb, man. And it's, man, if you have not gone out to watch a game, it is so fun. It's fast. It's good softball. It's quality softball. And yes, while OU hits a crap ton of home runs, they will lay down bunts and play small ball. Like they will do the little things to score runs.
It's kind of funny. Have you seen I guess some people have been getting a little upset with her, which I think is just hilarious. Have you seen the Jocelyn Allo thing?
No, what happened here?
Well, pitchers have been walking her now because she's
course.
she's got every home run record that's ever existed in softball. But so that when she lines up, they'll throw the first pitch and she'll already be throwing her bat to the side because she knows they're gonna walk her.
Oh,
people are getting mad that she's throwing her bat. I was like, bro, shut up. Like, you know what's gonna happen. Like, it's whatever. So
yeah, and look, wouldn't you be frustrated? Like if you can't do what it is that you're, I mean, what?
Like let me get it. I get that it's a strategy, right? But I understand as the player that's so infuriating.
Oh,
right?
heck
like,
yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Removing you from the game is not gonna be,
No.
So
For sure. And then we got to talk men's baseball too. Like, not a world beater team, but they're playing a lot better than a lot of people expected to. And they beat OSU last night in a walk-off, which, by the way, is a walk-off walk, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
dude, so hang on. So yes, the team started out really cold, and then it feels like they've kind of gotten. I'm not gonna say they're hot, but you know what I mean. Seems like they've maybe found a groove a little bit, right? Like,
yeah,
something where they can compete. They can compete more than they could the first few games of the season. But I also want to highlight real quick, because as much as I love to see OU win, I love to see Texas lose even more. Did you see the Texas Tech crap?
No, I did not.
So first of all, Texas Tech, I think they won the game, or maybe they just took the lead on a stolen home base. The pitcher goes and takes the call, goes like this, messes with his hat, and the guy at third takes off and gets to home, and the pitcher doesn't even look up until he's hit crossed home plate.
Oh my god!
And then the very next night, Texas Tech beat him on I think it was a walk-off home run.
Golly!
So I was like, dude, I hate Texas Tech too, but I hate Texas so much that I just had to shout that out. It was just amazing to watch.
So I was actually trying to see what the standings are in the Big 12, but I can't pull it up. Should have had that already. Again, just okay podcasting. And then let's end it off with the big one, Thunder. We talk about it a lot. Look, Thunder got I think 4 games left now. Mm-hmm. They lost tonight to the Hawks in pretty big fashion. But look, man, the tank is on officially. Giddy, Dort, and SGA. Yeah, you guys are done. In your hip sore? Yeah, you're out. Oh, your ankle sore? Oh, you're out. Oh,
well, but can we just say the reason why is like they obviously set SGA, like I think he's been sat for basically like what 2 weeks now or something, or a week.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been, even if he has played, he hasn't played much, right? And they were still close in games.
Oh, they beat Portland 2 nights ago. They were down 4 points with 40 seconds to go in the game, and freaking Isaiah Roby, of all people, goes freaking bananas and wins the game in overtime. Oh my God. It's like,
Dude, and it's so funny because like I even saw the shout out to the former co-host Troy, because I saw he even tweeted something the other day that was like, I don't remember, he was like, no, or he said, oh, this is just beautiful, and it was the loss, like there was like a Thunder loss, you know.
Right.
And then the next, I think it was the Portland game, maybe he tweeted, or I saw somebody else tweet, they were like, this isn't going how you want it to go, or something like that.
No.
Because you want, like, as dumb as it is, you want them to lose so they have a better draft pick.
Heck,
I mean,
they've even sat Trey Mann now.
Yeah.
Like they were like, dude, Trey Mann's a walking bucket. You're done. Like you sit because you're getting us too close, you know? So it's interesting, but you're also getting to see this young talent. Like tonight, even Maladon played well. Roby played well. Trey, I think it's Walters the third played really well. The SAR kid played really well. So I mean, they're getting their stuff together.
I think what you're also seeing is, I do think they're solidly coached, right? Like I think that a lot of it's just they're a well coached team. I think that I mean, it's not just that they have, you know, some freaks in Giddy and SGA and even Dort. They're just well coached team.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but yeah, I mean, now it's just kind of waiting, hoping that they can lose more than they win, and we'll see where the ping pong balls fall. You know, that's the biggest thing. That's what's going to determine this team. But I do think the future is very bright for this squad, depending on what happens. So speaking of the future maybe not being so bright, let's talk some Baker Mayfield.
Oh, dude, come on. Why do we have to bring this pain into my world?
Yeah.
Look, I've what's funny is I saw a fellow streamer that I know, he's a big Cleveland Brown fan, and even he was like, free Baker, unkind things about the Browns. Like he was not happy about the situation, actually.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, he's like, I'll be honest. He's like, Deshaun Watson might be able to sling the ball better than Baker, but he's like, I didn't want him. Like Baker has embraced it. Like it's been so funny because I feel like I do want to put one thing out there. As much as we're gonna get into this, I just want to put one thing out there, because I have seen a lot of actually Cleveland fans that have kind of taken Baker's side in it and said, like, look, he embraced us, whatever. You obviously have the loud group of people that are like, oh, we got Deshaun, screw Baker, you guys, oh, you fans suck, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, that's just the loud group, right? That's not, I don't think that's the majority in my experience, but feel free to shoot stats at me on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, obviously you had the news that the GM says he didn't tell Baker or the agent that about Deshaun, and says Baker's a pro. So
yeah, okay, so the thing that's all messed up about that, right, is the reports when Baker put his his goodbye statement out, right? Mm-hmm. It was really, I told somebody the other day, I was like, you could tell that his publicist did not write that for Baker, because he put this thing in there about silence, right? And then he went on to, I don't know what the future holds. He was saying the Cleveland Browns were silent to him, but because he wrote it in a way that was vague, you saw people leaking to the media that Baker went silent on the Browns.
Which makes no sense.
Right? That they were reaching out, but he was so mad and he was so sensitive and yada, yada, that he wouldn't talk to him. No. And the GM basically said that. He said, look, we told his agent we were going to look at quarterbacks. We were going to do our due diligence. And like he owned it. He said, I should have told him that we're going to meet with Deshaun, and I didn't. Now, the other thing that he goes on to say is like, hey, look, we got the cap space to keep Baker. And so at this point, if we don't get what we want, we're going to keep him. And he goes, and then he basically got asked, are you not worried about the dynamic? He goes, oh, no, not worried about it. Baker's a pro. Aren't you the same people that said you went and looked at Deshaun Watson because you wanted an adult at quarterback? Y'all leaked that to Chris Mortensen.
Hang on. And I feel like, okay. I feel like this goes back. Like, this is one of those things like we've talked about before with Baker about, yes, coming out of college, Baker did some very stupid things.
Yes.
Okay? Like, even Baker's going to say that probably.
Right.
He got his DUI arrest or his public intox or whatever. His public intox. Got his public intox arrest. There was the Kansas incident, yada, yada, yada. Right. Like, if he was the number 1 draft pick and that's who Cleveland had, or whatever, and somebody said, well, Cleveland would rather have an adult. It's like, okay, then that tracks. Okay. What has Baker done since he's been at Cleveland that makes him not an adult?
Correct.
Right. Like, what character flaw has he shown? Right. Like, what is he's not the guy. He's not even like, look at like Gronk still goes out and parties like an animal.
Yep.
Right. Like notoriously recorded as doing that. Baker doesn't have that rep. Right. You would almost think he would, but he doesn't.
Playing through injury.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, again, I'm grateful that the GM was honest. Okay.
To some degree. Yeah.
But you just showed that y'all have created your own monster here, because now you're calling Baker a pro when you said he wasn't an adult, and you said he went silent when now you're telling everyone that you didn't let him know that you were meeting with Deshaun Watson. I mean,
look, here's
man.
Here's the fact of the matter, right? Whatever happens to Baker, I hope that they trade him. I hope he ends up somewhere where he can play. If he doesn't, it's like the Browns are setting themselves up to go right back to the cycle they were in of having a new quarterback every other season.
Can I just be honest though? Here's what I really want. Here's what I genuinely want to happen, because I'm just spiteful and ridiculous. I want Deshaun Watson to get suspended for at least half the season, because I think he will, based on the conduct policies, right?
Well, and again, it's even if he doesn't, let's say he doesn't, right? But he's still got 20 plus
civil
cases that he's gonna have to go through. So let's say 5 out of the 20, whatever, get found to have validation or whatever, and he has to pay out on those. Just 5, right? That's not a good look. The media is going to roast you.
Yep.
Like, the public opinion is not going to be on your side if it's found that there's something there.
Right. But again, everybody keeps saying, well, since the grand jury is not pressing charges, he can play. No. Ezekiel Elliott did not play multiple games because a woman.
He wasn't even.
Correct. And we all found out it was a lie. Ben Roethlisberger, we'll see. No criminal charges, civil case, weird things going on. He was suspended for 6 games for being accused, right? And basically paying the girl to shut her mouth. He got suspended 6 games. So Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended.
Well, and and let's be honest. Like, we live in a new era, right? Like, when Ben did what he did, I'm not trying to condone Ben by in the actions that he supposedly took, but it was a different era then. It was a different time, right? Yeah. Like, now you have like the Me Too movement, you have all these movements, and it's much more, not to say it wasn't frowned upon before, but the public reaction is much harsher now.
It's going to be a lot harsher
to those sorts of things, right? And if it, like I said, it literally just takes 1 or 2 really to come out and like be proven that there's some validity to it or whatever. Right. It's like, nobody's going to want him.
Right. So to get to my point though, regardless, if all 22 are proven wrong, he is going to be suspended. Period. That's my point.
Yeah.
Keep Baker. I want you to keep Baker. And here's what I want. I want him to be fully healthy. I want him to go back to 2 seasons ago, where in that system, he had figured it out and he was on a roll, and he just plays freaking lights out, because the debacle that will be Cleveland then, because he ain't staying at this point. Like, they are not going to keep Baker. They cannot keep him and Deshaun Watson at that salary. They can't do it. And they're going to have to trade him for next to nothing to somebody. And Baker's going to get a massive payday. Worst case scenario is going to get a massive payday from somebody else. And that's what I want. I want Cleveland to just look like fools. You had a guy who wanted to stay and wanted to be your guy, and you screwed it all up. That's what I want.
You wanted Cleveland to Cleveland. I mean, this is the guy. Like, okay, a couple of things I want to highlight real quick before we move on. Baker was the guy that when asked before the draft, because he was pretty, before the combine and all that, he was already considered probably the number 1 pick in the draft, which the Cleveland Browns obviously had. And somebody asked him, what do you think about Cleveland? Because other people in the past would have said, no, I have no interest in going to Cleveland.
Well, there were quarterbacks in that draft saying they didn't want to go to Cleveland.
Yeah, I think I can't even remember who all was in that draft, but yeah, several. There were several guys that had no interest in Cleveland, and he said, if anybody can turn that franchise around, I can. He was the only one. Only one. That's one. Two, and this is something that people seem to glazing over whenever they want to try to make an argument against Baker, is it's like he's had 4 coaches that he's had to work with since he's been at Cleveland. He's only been there 4 years.
Right.
Like, do you understand how insane that is? That he's had any success at all? So, yeah, I mean, Baker. What's funny is Baker's statue is getting unveiled at the spring game.
Yep.
They're going to walk him out in the middle of that field, and that stadium is going to erupt.
Yep.
Because everybody at Oklahoma loves Baker. We love you, Baker. I can't think of anybody at Oklahoma that doesn't love Baker.
Yeah, it's going to be on. So it's a weird scenario. Other news in the NFL, Bruce Arians today, like this happened right as we were coming on the pod, retires.
Yeah, which is a weird deal because you have, so for people that don't know, Tom Brady, like the whole Tom Brady saga has been wild.
Right.
So far, right? Like at this point, I don't know. He's probably going to change his mind 15 times before the season starts at this point.
Nah, he's in. He's going to play.
But Bruce Arians has retired.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's just weird because he was at the combine. He was at pro days. Like,
it seems like like to me, when I saw it, I was like, it's got to be either like there's a medical thing, like a legitimate, not like an Urban Meyer medical thing, but a legit medical thing. Or something happened where they're just trying to sever that cleanly, and they said, look, you're retiring. We're gonna
maybe not, maybe just in the midst of thinking about getting ready for mini camp stuff, he said, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't know, but
imagine making enough money that you could be like, I just don't want to work anymore.
But I mean, this is a guy that was talking with Tom Brady and him coming. I don't know. It just seemed very out of left field. Age wise, and as long as he's been like that all lines up. But like he just did not show any. I mean, just a few weeks ago, he's in it to win it, and now he's out. So that's weird. U.S. men's national team. You brought this up. Most likely going to qualify for a World Cup.
Yeah, I think it is. It's like it's either 5 or 6. All they have to do is not lose by more than 5 or 6 goals, and they're in.
Golly.
So that's just nuts. Which by the way, this team's good, guys. Like they're probably not going to win the World Cup.
Right.
Okay.
No,
I'm not going to say they can't, but it's not likely. Right. However, I could see them making a run deep into the World Cup.
And we're talking 4 years from now, World Cup too. Like we're not talking the one upcoming. Like it's a ways out, but this is a team that's very young. They do have some talent. It could be really fun to see. So any F1 news?
Yeah. So F1, 2 races down. The last race was at Jeddah, which is in Saudi Arabia, which was crazy because they almost didn't have the race. There was actually there was a missile attack.
Yeah.
On a refinery. What was crazy is they were showing, I think it was free practice 1, or they're getting ready for it, and you could see the fire in the background.
Yeah, it was real wild.
So the originally the drivers had a meeting and were like, we don't know that we want to race here.
Right.
But honestly, the crazier news was, so I didn't send you a clip of it, but you'll have to look it up. Mick Schumacher, who races for Haas, which is the American F1 team. Mick Schumacher is the son of Michael Schumacher. And what was funny, or not funny, but what was terrifying is he had a horrible wreck in qualifying.
Yikes.
He hit the wall at like 170 miles an hour. And they said, I remember what the number was. It was like 38 G is what they measured the force of the car hitting, like 38 G. So that means 38 times your body weight pressure upon you when you hit the wall. And when, like, literally when they were picking up the car split in half. Like but anyways, when he wrecked, he didn't get out of the car. Like most of the guys will start taking their wheel off and start getting out of the car.
Right.
And he was just sitting there. So everybody was very nervous. But anyway, he did check out. And they said that he no injuries really at all. Which is just a testament to how safe those cars are now.
Right.
But anyways, F1's been great. There's new cars. They're able to race like this last race. That was the other thing is Jeddah. That was the closest finish between first and second in like 28 years or something insane.
Jeez.
I mean, like the guy was, it was like, is he going to be able to get past him before the finish line, you know? So yeah, so F1's great. So if you want to check out F1, dude, this is the time. This is like, it's Formula One's peaking right now. So definitely check it out.
That's awesome. So yeah. And then we always end with a little bit of entertainment news, which honestly, I haven't got to do anything. So,
well, okay.
Yeah.
So the Halo show, episode 1 is out. I'm a huge Halo nerd. Like, obviously you can't.
I'm excited about the show. I'm not a Halo nerd, but that show looks legit.
Okay. So you can see like that's my helmet for going to the track. And it's basically looks like the Spartan helmet and obviously an actual Spartan helmet. Huge Halo fan. And so I've been pumped for it. This first one came out. It's hard to say, like everybody's been like, is it good? I'm like, it's one episode. Like it's just introducing, because they're obviously releasing it as a thing. Like most people that watch it are going to be there because of the video games. So they're going to have some idea, but it's trying to build a story because a lot of people just played through the game, shot aliens. They didn't know anything about what it was about. Right. So, but it was good. Moon Knight also dropped today. And I actually watched it. I woke up because of the dogs and just couldn't go back to sleep. So I watched it last night. And this morning, I guess, and it's one episode again, looks really good. So definitely check those out. And also because both you and I are nerds about this, the Top Gun Maverick trailer, the number 3 trailer. Woo!
Yeah.
It
looks real good.
There is one thing that I want to ask you because first of all, let me ask you this: what was your reaction like when you saw it? What was you like? Were you just
I've been hyped for it since trailer 1 3 years ago or whatever, when it was supposed to come out and then COVID hit and then COVID stayed and COVID stayed and COVID stayed. I've been ready for this forever. So yes, trailer 3 with the photos and all, like, let's go. Let's go.
So there was one thing that was like a little, it's kind of a little weird because I know that like, so Val Kilmer obviously who was in original Top Gun. They basically show that he's in, well, don't know that he's in, but they reference him in the trailer and they show a picture of him and it looks like terribly like photoshopped, or like they try to make it look like he had like $5 million worth of plastic surgery or something. It just looks weird.
Well, it's his, he has that crazy disease though that makes him look funky.
Yeah. Well, he had like throat cancer too, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's no shade at him. It looks a little weird, but yeah, it looks, I'm so hyped for the trailer, man, or for the movie. We're a couple months away. It's like May, I think, is when it comes out.
Yeah. I mean, so we're more or less month and a half away, and it's going to be so good. And I'm hyper intrigued about this animosity, anger relationship between Goose's son and Maverick. I think that
which honestly, it's like, that's what I told somebody. Is like, somebody was like, it's going to be cheesy and dumb like the first one. And I'm like, dude, I was like, Miles Teller's a good actor.
Yeah.
And he's in it, I mean, but you can say what you want about Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a good actor. There's plenty of good. I can't even think the lady that plays what looks to be Maverick's wife. I can't remember what that actress's name is. She's really good. They've got a lot of star power.
Dude, I just want to see it, dude. I want to see a movie where all the footage of them and the jets is real. They're in those jets making those, like, let's go. Like, I want to see it. So yeah, I can't wait for that one, man. It looks super legit. So, but again, I haven't had a chance to watch Moon Knight or any of that stuff. Maybe this weekend. Evan and Logan are gone this weekend, so I might have some late nights to be able to stay up and get caught up on that stuff.
Yeah. So Halo comes out. The second episode comes out tonight, so you go watch that. You'll have 2.
There you go.
But
there you go.
So pretty hyped. I mean, it's just we've got to fill our time with something because we still don't have football. And
correct.
I mean, I love F1 and I love some other, I even like to watch soccer every once, but it ain't football. Football's my jams. So
no doubt. Well, man, that's it, man. Episode's in the books. That's what we got. We hope you've enjoyed it. Again, if you have enjoyed the podcast, want to hear more, as we get more sourced information, that kind of stuff, please feel free to subscribe, like, follow, all the different things. Join us when we do stream on Wednesday nights. Get in here and chat it up with us and interact with us. We'd love for that to happen. Again, we're having a great time. We hope you guys are too. I'm Daryl.
I'm J-Rod.
And we will talk to you guys later. Bye, Baker.
Cha-ching, it's on your money ball. And you can unhitch the wagon. Put the ponies in the ball.